ladies and gentlemen, when Logan came up here and said people have the right to donate their organs, he wasn't talking about just average Joe out there who just happens to need some money for a car loan. They're talking about people that are pretty poor, who have nothing else to sell but their bodies and their kidneys. Those people who are at the bottom part of this society, people who can't make rational decisions because they're simply desperate. And we don't think states should allow desperate people to make desperate decisions that is not going to be completely informed or very sound, simply because they just can't, you just don't have the information necessary to judge whether this is right for themselves, ladies and gentlemen, especially when it comes to donating eyes and ears, which you might or might not need, depending on your situation, but you don't know that. So we believe in this kind of uncertainty, and going through this kind of irreversible procedure is unacceptable for the state and individual, and that is why we oppose. I'm going to talk about two things in my speech today. First, I'm going to talk about the exploitative nature of organ trade and why that overwhelms the individual right to sell their organs. And second, I'm going to talk about how this will actually undermine the donation process and how this makes it actually give less incentive for people to donate, which is right now under status quo the prime source of organs for people. But let's rebut some of their arguments that they brought up. First, they said that it's okay for family members to give organs to their siblings or their families just because to save their lives. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's also a huge difference, ladies and gentlemen. This is, as they said, it's a person they know. They already know the huge consequences. They're more likely to have gone through severe amounts of a debate, a talk with their family members to make sure that it will be okay. It isn't something that's done rashly, like some poor guy on the streets won a glass of whiskey and therefore they're going to register. There is a huge difference between the motive and the amount of thinking that goes before this kind of process, and therefore it's not applicable. And furthermore, ladies and gentlemen, and the certainty of this kind of procedure is also doubtful. When he made it analogous to if they sell their organs to make money to save another person, it's okay. No, it's not. Even if you sell that organ and they get that money to do that procedure, we believe that that is not a certainty, and a state or individual cannot be accepted in going through this kind of procedure that's so invasive and so uncertain that could actually amount to a proper ailment of their diseases. And second, they said opting out is not an option just because there's not enough people, or these organs are damaged and therefore it cannot be used. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that when they talk about Singapore is a very, very small country that has a very small population. Yeah. Obviously, they're not going to be able to have enough organs for people that want. But, ladies and gentlemen, we're only talking about several thousand people, ladies and gentlemen, and many people, several thousand people, die sometimes of just drowning in their bathtub, which is a completely okay way. Their organs will be completely intact. There are many ways people die that leaves the organs completely okay. We don't think that's a reason not to we think opting out in a system where people can simply people are forced to donate as long as they don't refuse is a system that could work in countries with a lot of population. So we think that's a viable option. So now let's go into my arguments about exploitative nature of organ trading. But before that, yes sir.
There are thousands of people on waiting lists in the United States waiting for a heart. Would you just let them die, or are you going to do anything about it to stop them?
Well, we can't give a heart, first of all, if they're going to die. And second of all, ladies and gentlemen, as I told you, we're not saying that we shouldn't do anything. As they said, opting out procedure where people are forced to donate unless they refuse it or write it in their will, that's a perfectly acceptable option that we believe will increase the number of organs and to save people, ladies and gentlemen. And just because people have their lives dangerous doesn't mean state has to do something that has to definitely save them, ladies and gentlemen. The state does the maximum amount of things they could do that will not hurt others, which I'm going to talk about in my argument. So let's talk about the exploitative nature. Because they say somehow that this is a free and fair choice. No, thank you. Because this is done by their will. We allowed bungee jumping and all sorts of things. But ladies and gentlemen, we're not talking about rich people suddenly deciding, oh, I'm going to get a thrill out of something. We're talking about people that are desperate, ladies and gentlemen, who has no livelihood, who has no job, who has no way of earning any money other than to sell organs, apparently. So if that is true, maybe that's very problematic. Because if that's true, they have, first of all, very poor information about what's going to happen. If these people are poor, they're not going to know what kind of consequences they'll face by donating an organ, ladies and gentlemen. And these poor people, because of their livelihood is bad, they're the most likely people to need that extra kidney because it's likely to fail in their bad environmental conditions, ladies and gentlemen. And doctors are not going to tell them that if they want the organs to sell it to another person, ladies and gentlemen. So there's a perverse incentive to just simply allow these people to donate without actually giving them full information. And even if we give them the full information, second, they have severe amounts of perverse incentive, ladies and gentlemen. People are usually only care about the short term. If they think that in the short term they can gain enough money to go through college, they're going to do so. But what will they do? They risk their entire health, ladies and gentlemen. And we're not talking about kidneys to be something that can be completely taken out and nothing's going to happen. We have a second kidney for a very good reason. Because the first kidney has the possibility to fail, ladies and gentlemen. In the future, if you're a law student and you become 35, 40 or something, and then suddenly you need a kidney, you can't reverse that, ladies and gentlemen. So we find a huge problem with people, with poor people, donating simply because they don't have the information, and second, because they're desperate, ladies and gentlemen. Let's quickly go on to my second argument about undermining donation, ladies and gentlemen. Because under status quo, many people, out of their charitable field, give those organs as a donations to people. But what we do, if we allow the sales, is we completely eliminate these people's incentive to give it on their own. They're going to ask for compensation because everyone else is asking for compensation. Societal norm is going to ask for compensation, and it's going to be fair. And we think that's going to make these donations more expensive. It's going to make it more dangerous, and that is why we beg to oppose.